Hi, Kingston Town Administrator Keith Hickey with the latest edition of This Week in Kingston, being broadcast this week from the local scene. We have a presentation this morning. I have a very special guest, Town Planner Valerie Massard. Thanks for coming, Valerie.
Thanks for having me.
Valerie's here today. We're going to talk a little bit about a warrant article that'll be on the May 11th town warrant, a town meeting regarding accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, as you may hear people talking about. So we want to try to spend some time today just making people aware of what this warrant article means moving forward. So when you get to town meeting, you hopefully will have a better understanding about what's being proposed by the planning board. So with that, Valerie's got a PowerPoint presentation we'll kind of walk through, and when you have a chance, once you've finished watching this riveting show, if you have questions at all, you can certainly reach out to Valerie at the townhouse or stop by, and we'll try to provide some information. We'll also have information on our website as well that will hopefully provide some information and answer some questions. But with that, Valerie, why don't you just get into the presentation and talk about what's being discussed at town meeting regarding accessory dwelling units.
Great, thanks, Keith. The planning board is working on enhancing the flexibility of the accessory dwelling units for the Town of Kingston residents. We already allow them by special permit, but there's been some tweaks that we could make to make it so that more people might have the option to consider putting on an accessory dwelling unit. So I did this PowerPoint to sort of give a sense of it. So that's the intro slide. And then here, what is an accessory dwelling unit? Some people may not know what I'm talking about. So it's an accessory residence to a primary dwelling. So if you have a single family house and you want to add on another unit with a separate entrance, you can, and by special permit. So here's a drawing of examples of what would be accessory. You could have a part of it be part of the house, or it can be separate from the house.
Sure. But it's a separate unit altogether, whether it's attached to the house or
not.
It's a separate living unit.
And today, you're allowed to do it by special permit if it's attached.
Okay.
So that would mean, and you can see on this slide here that the yellow highlighting, that if it's attached, it might be the attic converted, or it might be the garage is converted, or maybe the space over the garage is converted, or the basement. Or you can even physically add on to the house itself. And that's an example of what an attached is. And then up above there, you can see one that's detached, meaning that it stands alone, separate from the house, but it's on the same lot.
Like a detached garage.
Exactly.
For example.
Yeah, and it would stay with that house.
Sure.
It's not a separate lot or anything like that. And the idea is that it has its own kitchen, its own bathroom, and its own entrance, and the owner has to reside either in the accessory unit or the primary unit.
Sure.
And it's like a condo sort of in terms of the land and the two units stay together.
So, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, so I apologize if I am. The purpose for wanting to expand a property owner's ability to have an accessory dwelling unit, what is causing that interest in the South Shore?
Well, we have this so-called housing crisis, if you will, and that's really being driven by the change in the family unit across the country. It used to be that you had a typical family with 2.4 kids, and everybody resided in a new single-family dwelling, but that's changed a lot. The demographics of the country have changed considerably, and we have a lot of fewer, smaller households, but people living in those same houses, so now we don't have enough housing units. And one of the ways that we can try to help provide options for people, especially like if you want to downsize, and that's what this screen has, some of the reasons people might do that.
Okay.
And that's an example of an accessory dwelling unit that's detached in that picture there. But you might want to be able to have, say, your parents come live in an accessory dwelling unit, or maybe you're retired or you're an empty nester couple and you want to have some additional revenue. Maybe you can rent your house out to a family and downsize yourselves into the smaller unit. So we've seen some of that here in Kingston.
Sure.
So it's an option for an additional revenue stream, as well as trying to make additional living arrangements available to people in the town.
And with the cost of housing.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Kids getting out of college, things of that nature, it's tough even
the average
paying
house,
rent. Right now
Median
it's tough.
house for sale in Kingston right now is $625,000, and the price for a single-bedroom house has gone up 66% since last year. So we don't see those values going down, we see them going up.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have an aging demographic. So we have people looking to stay in the community and have a place to live and downsize, or find an additional income stream,
Sure.
or help out their kids, like you said. So those are reasons why we want to revisit this and see if we can make it a little more
Great.
accessible. So I wanted to talk about what we do allow today so that it's clear about what would be different. So we have a special permit process, and that means that there's a public hearing, and all the neighbors around the house for 300 feet get notified of that public hearing so that they can understand and know that there's a possible additional dwelling unit that would show up
Sure.
in their neighborhood. And that gives the town the discretionary decision to whether or not they want to support it. There's got to be 4 out of the 5 planning board members, a supermajority, it's called, that support it. Otherwise, it doesn't pass.
Okay.
So that special permit process allows neighbors to appeal. They have standing when they want to talk about, maybe they need some buffering, like a planted tree or something to screen their view.
Sure.
So that's the reason why we have that process. And then we also have the, as I mentioned before, that the owner has to live there. There's no short-term rentals allowed. There's a separate entrance. And none of those things are going to change. So we're keeping all of those kind of key aspects
Sure.
of it the same.
It's just still a simple majority?
It's still a supermajority.
Okay.
Yep. And so just emphasizing that again, that these aspects are not going to change. But what we are trying to do, again, is address that flexibility.
Sure.
And so I don't want to repeat myself, but those are those reasons why. And we literally have people coming in almost every day into town hall to ask us about, well, could I do this? Could I do that? So we want to make our bylaw better.
It's really, I know the discussion has really increased about the desire of people to be able to do that for a lot of the reasons you've already mentioned. You know, it's just tough to find affordable housing for either seniors, for, kids just getting out of school, or people who living in the home who may be retired, and the cost of owning a home continues to increase. So it provides some, a secondary income, so to speak, but really limits who you can rent that property to, I guess is maybe the best way to say that. So it's, it does create more dwelling units in Kingston, and people are concerned about growth, and we understand that. This, I don't think, really is going to significantly impact that, but what it does is it provides kind of a niche opportunity for some people.
Some people, yeah.
To either help out their parents, help out their kids, or help out themselves, really, right?
Yeah. And what's different between this and an in-law apartment is that the in-law has to have the same entrance.
Right.
And so this is a completely separate unit. So it gives people a little more privacy. There's towns all over Massachusetts are changing their zoning to make these a little more available.
Plymouth had their town meeting last week, and Plymouth approved an accessory dwelling unit
By
amendment.
right. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how it compares to what we're looking to do in Kingston, but there are a lot of communities, as you mentioned, on the South Shore specifically, that are trying to address a need that right now is there, and in the past really wasn't as much.
Yeah. Even an apartment, for example, to rent, the rent can be anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 a month, which is a lot of money.
It is.
So we hired LDS Consulting, which is a specialty planning group in Needham, Mass, and they did some research on all of the South Shore communities and some of the communities in Greater Boston. Just give us some recommendations. What can we do differently that would fit in with our character? And I had done a little living study for the South Shore communities of Duxbury, Hingham, and some of those communities with MAPC a couple of years ago, that we also looked at those housing types to see, and those were specifically designed to fit in with the character of this area. So we got some recommendations from LDS Consulting.
Sure.
And now we're showing you the difference between what we are proposing to change. So right now, they are attached only, and we're saying you might be able to go attached or detached. So now if you have a standalone garage with space over it, you could convert that, say, to an affordable, not affordable, wrong word, more affordable, but not affordable when it comes to this sense of it. It doesn't have to go to a lottery or anything like that. It's allowed only right now in the residential districts that are R20, R40, and R80. 20,000 square foot lot, 40,000 square foot lot, or 80,000 square foot lot. So what we're actually proposing to do is allow this in different parts of town.
Sure.
So we have the 3A design district, and that's got a lot of places where we have a primary structure is a house, and there's a business in it. And there hasn't been a lot of redevelopment of those units. So we're hoping that by allowing it in that area where there's already a structure that's a house with a residence, and then it has a business in it, that they might be able to do something with it. If that business isn't doing as well, maybe they convert that business into a dwelling unit.
Sure.
So it's a possibility. And also the commercial areas. So we have town center, and we have the commercial districts here and there along 3A.
Sure.
And in those areas, if there's a house, because there are several houses in those areas, because they were built before the zoning changed to commercial, they could then, if it's a house already there and it's being used as residential, convert it to add an accessory dwelling unit.
Sure.
Not if there's already a business there, because we want to keep that commercial vibrant. We also are proposing to limit that lot size only to 20,000 square feet. So if you have an older lot in, say, the R80 zone, that's only 20,000 square feet. Now you're allowed to do an accessory dwelling unit by special permit. Before, we'd say, sorry, your lot is too small. So we're saying that if you have a smaller lot, you could do it.
Sure.
And then this is the last slide with some of the changes. The parking and the setbacks weren't very flexible, and the size is smaller in most of the other communities for the minimum size. So we're making those setbacks work with older structures. We're making those setbacks work better. And we're also saying that we're going to have access to the driveway, the existing driveway, which we didn't before. We're going to allow 350 square feet minimum size, whereas right today it's 500 square feet. So that's more consistent with the area. And then we're also looking at having a no waiting period.
So right now, when we mentioned waiting period, a waiting period is you have to own the home or own the property.
Well, yeah, it's not very clear in the bylaw.
Okay.
But what it does say is the house has to have been occupied for at least 1 to 3 years, depending what district you're in.
Okay.
And in some cases, we have people come in and say, well, you know, it would be cheaper and easier for me to build the house with an accessory dwelling unit on it rather than come back.
Sure.
So this would allow somebody to come in and build if they want to do a new build, although there's not many unbuilt lots in the town.
Right.
In theory, there's no time limit anymore to have to have lived there for a while before you could ask for a special permit.
Makes sense.
So those are things we think will add some opportunities to the fabric. We did get it reviewed by Town Council and by the Affordable Housing Trust, and they gave us a couple of changes, but they're not very substantial. And one of the things we've had difficulty with is defining the habitable gross floor area, meaning living space. So we've been struggling, is a bathroom living space, is a closet living space? It's actually not. And the best place for us to do that is the building code. Rather than try to figure it out with each application, we're going to be much more clear and say, it's the building code. Everybody can look to that definition, and it'll clear up some confusion that we've had. So I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of examples that we've already done here in Kingston. You can see that it doesn't really change the view of the house. There's an addition where there would have been an ADU in the back, and the view on the left is the front. They actually built something different, but that was the footprint that would have been the ADU there. Here's one where the house had an attached garage and is a ranch style. And in the second picture on the right, you can see that they added something very similar in character as an attached accessory dwelling unit. And here's another example where we have a larger house. And again, they had that kind of a framework where they were able to put something that mirrored the design on the left-hand side.
Sure.
And it looks very much like it did before. So design being consistent with the existing primary structure or house is something that won't change.
So for those who are concerned, and they should be, right? You know, they moved to Kingston at some point in the future, in the past, to they like the neighborhoods, they like the rural look and feel of the neighborhood that they're in. The planning board, you, the engineering firm or the consulting firm that you worked with, certainly the intent is not to change the look and feel of a neighborhood.
Right.
It's to have these blend in as best they can to not impact the look and feel of the established neighborhood that's been there for a while.
Right.
Fair to say?
Yeah, and for example, we've had this on the books for quite a few years. We have 6 or 7 accessory dwelling units that were constructed. So we don't expect to see a flurry of this happening throughout the town. But we do expect that there will be some additional flexibility that results from this. And anything we can do to try to help make things better for the town and the residents, we're here to try and do that.
That's great. So I hope you learned something from the show today. This issue is important, and I think will be a benefit to a lot of property owners in town and relatives of those property owners. I want to thank Val very much for coming in and
Thanks for having me.
Providing a better explanation about this situation and this option. And hopefully, if you go to town meeting on May 11th, and you'll be able to vote one way or another on this. If you have any questions, reach out to Val. She'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. There'll be a lot of other shows coming up between now and the May 11th meeting to try to provide more information for you. So when you get to town meeting on May 11th, you know, have some background about what the articles are being requested for. So with that, I want to thank you very, very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.